This session is about being with difficult feelings, which is a subject that I did not feel qualified to talk about until recently. What I want to work on today is at least start a process of building the capacity to be with difficult feelings, especially for those who are dealing with chronic pain. The purpose of these sessions is to offer support and guidance, to have further education about how to overcome chronic issues and chronic pain, and also to remind you that often working towards these solutions is a lot easier when done with others. Humans are social creatures, and sometimes, and most often actually, we can't go in certain places within ourselves without others holding space for us. So here's what to expect. We're going to start with grounding exercises. The lecture is going to be understanding why these feelings are so hard to be with and how that occurs in our nervous system. Then we're going to check in with our conscience, which we've done before, and we're going to have kind of an inner exploration, followed by some reflective writing. So to begin with, I'm going to share, speaking of sharing, we're going to do a body scan meditation for 10 minutes, and then we're going to review certain somatic exercises for grounding. And part of why we're doing this is so we can be present. But the other reason is these are actually tools that are useful on the journey of going into that place that's hard, those feelings that are hard to be with. And I feel like they're necessary tools to go on this journey. And I'm going to show you how to do that today. We're going to do a 10-minute body scan meditation. Settle in. And here we go. To begin, find somewhere comfortable to sit. It's essential that you feel safe and that you will not be interrupted. Let other people know you need privacy, and for the next 15 minutes, you should not be disturbed. Silence your computer and phone messages. This exercise aims to sharpen your awareness, moment to moment, of the connection between your thoughts, feelings, and body sensations. Practice developing your felt sense of your body. Do your best to feel your body rather than creating mental images with your mind. Let's ease into the meditation by becoming aware of your contact points to the chair and the ground. Notice the pressure on your buttocks and thighs. Next, feel the contact of your arms, hands, and feet. Let the sensation of sitting anchor you in your body. Take some deep breaths. In through the nose and out through the mouth. In through the nose and out through the mouth. Be mindful of the sensations of breathing. Now gently close your eyes and bring your awareness to the top of your head. Slowly scan down to your forehead. And then to your face. If you notice your jaw clenched, relax it fully. It's normal to have thoughts come up during this exercise. When this happens, gently bring your focus back to your breath and back to the body. Bring your awareness down to your throat and be aware of the sensations. Next, bring your awareness to your right shoulder. Bring your focus down the right upper arm. To the right elbow. To your forearm. And to your right hand. Next, bring your awareness to your left shoulder. Bring your focus down the left upper arm. To your elbow. To your forearm. And to your left hand. Next, transition your attention to your chest. Slowly scan your chest down to your solar plexus and rest your awareness on your stomach. Bring your focus to your right hip. Down the right upper leg to the knee. To your lower leg. And to your right foot. Next, bring your focus to your left hip. Down the left upper leg. To the knee. To your lower leg. And to your left foot. come back to your awareness of your breath. Breathe in through your nose and out through the mouth. In through the nose and out through the mouth. When you get distracted, gently bring your focus back to the exercise. Observe your thoughts, feelings, and body sensations, but don't try to control them. Just allow the thoughts, feelings, and sensations to be. Notice if you have any resistance to this exercise. Resistance may be an urge to space out, a desire to stop the exercise, or a judgment about what you are experiencing. Resistance to body awareness often creates conflict between your body and conscious mind. It can be challenging being with your thoughts, feelings, and body sensations without getting caught up in them. But the more you practice, the easier it is to remain present. Breathe in through the nose and out through your mouth. Feel the sensation of your ribs expanding. Be aware of the sensation of your breath passing through your nose and into your lungs. On your out-breath, become aware of the sensations of the air exiting your lungs and out through your mouth. Breathe in and breathe out. Breathe in and breathe out. When you feel ready, slowly open your eyes and allow yourself to gradually orient to your surroundings. The purpose of a body scan meditation, partly, and especially in this context, is we're trying to get you back in your body. And the reason that's so important is because when we go through shocks and traumas and overwhelms, what happens is our body is actually disconnected from our conscious mind. There's a fragmentation that happens. So you really can't get anything done unless you start to heal that relationship and to kind of bring this awareness of what the body is trying to tell you to your consciousness to some degree. So this is one, body scan meditation is one tool. Now we're going to review a few others. And one of the reasons I want to review them is because once we go through the explanation and then we go deeper into the deeper exercises, I want you to have tools at hand, just in case something comes up that's hard. And I'm not asking you to, we're not going to try to dive into the most darkest depths of your psyche today. Unless that happens, and that's fine. But the point is to build skills. And you need tools for the journey. So another concept that I've talked about a lot is, and it's also in the videos on my website and on YouTube, are pendulation exercises. So this is the work of Dr. Peter Levine, and it's exactly what it sounds, is that there's this rhythm to life, right? There's the beat of the heart, there's the night and day rhythm, life and death, the way that the earth rotates around the sun in a certain cycle. And that is embedded within our nervous system as well. And part of that rhythm is going from places of high activity to lower activity, or even from places of safety to places of threat. But the dysfunction we're trying to solve is when our nervous system gets stuck in a spot. We don't want that. We want a flow. So we're trying to reestablish a flow. So one of the pendulation exercises that I've gone through before, and we're going to review it here, is pendulation between body sensations that are pleasant to ones that are not, or settled or safe or even neutral to ones that are challenging. So let's do that. we already did body scan, so now let's just kind of sit and let's just do a kind of a semi-quick scan. We're going to start at the feet. Just be aware of how your feet feel. And then let's just kind of slowly scan up, ankles, lower leg, front, back, lower leg, knees, dimensionally, thighs, kind of let's go up the thighs. Be aware of your pelvic area, buttocks, even pressure, like again, like in the body scan, what's the pressure feel like? Let's come up into the abdominal, also the low back area that's behind that. Come up the torso, kind of dimensionally, right? So working our way up to the chest, and we can go, face, head, back of head, upper neck, shoulders. Let's scan down the right arm to the hand, and then we can scan down the left arm to the hand. And now kind of sit with yourself and say, is there any part of my body that feels decent, at least, if not good? Usually, by the way, it's usually the extremities, meaning the limbs, that feel less challenged, typically. But that's not always true, but it usually is. So you choose a spot that feels like rest or ease to you. And let's get familiar with that. And let's, take, as you breathe in, be aware of it. And as you breathe out, kind of just let your focus go spread out and be diffuse. And then breathe in and be aware of it. And then breathe out and let it kind of go. And as we do this, notice if the sensation in that area shifts at all. You're not trying to make it do that, you're just observing. And then eventually, once you feel like you have the capacity, let's focus on a part of your body that doesn't feel so great. Could be tense, hot, tingly. It could feel dense, like there's something stuck in it. And let's see if we can spend a moment with that place. Again, you're going to breathe in and be aware of it. Breathe out, try to let it go. Meaning the focus. Breathe in, be aware of it. Breathe out, let it go. And notice while you're doing this, does that change at all in any way? And then if especially you're feeling a little uncomfortable being that close to that feeling, let's go back to the place of ease. Let's be with that for a minute. Breathe in, be aware of it. Breathe out, kind of just diffuse focus. And then if you're ready and at your own pace, you can go back to the place of challenge. And again, you're going to be with it when you breathe in. And kind of let it go, your focus, when you breathe out. And then you're coming back in again to focus as you breathe in. And then kind of diffuse focus when you breathe out. And if you feel so inclined, let's go back to the place of ease and be aware of that. Breathe in, be aware of that. Breathe out, let it go. Now, just take a minute to pause and kind of be aware of your body as a whole, but especially those two spots. And did anything shift? And this isn't a grade, right? If it did, it's fine. If it didn't, it's fine too. This exercise will be helpful if you feel yourself feeling unsettled or stuck in some way, anxious, angry, all those things. It tends to smooth out your energy and make things feel more connected. Now, another pendulation exercise that is the same idea, but it's kind of a different tool, is memories. So let's do that one now. So I want you to think of a memory from a time when you felt resourced, grounded. I don't know if happy is the exact word, but just safe. And I want you to remember as many sensory details as possible. So let's say, I'll just give you an example. Let's say it was swimming in the river. So you could recall the feel of the sun on your skin, the sense of the wind blowing across your hair, the feel of your feet when you step into the sandy banks and the cool water starts to surround your ankles. That's just an example. How does your body feel in response to that? What's your sense of life in that place? So let's spend some time being with that memory and seeing if you, as rich as you can evoke in yourself, that memory. Okay, now I want you to recall a memory that was very unpleasant and overwhelming. It could be a present one, actually. It could be something from your past that has bugged you for years. I don't want you to choose the gnarliest, most challenging one. Let's try something in the middle, maybe. Yeah, or middle to low. And again, you're going to put yourself in a sensory place, remembering what it felt like, what it smelled like, what it sounded like to be in that place. And of course, what it felt like means what did your body sensations feel like in that place? And again, you're going to be with that as much as you can. And you can also use that breath pattern we use with the body, which you can breathe in to be aware and breathe out to let it kind of diffuse your focus if necessary, or you can just breathe and be with it. And as you're with this unpleasant memory, as soon as it starts feeling really too much, let's go back to that place that you visited before. And feel free to go back and forth between them as you're guided to by your own sense of things. Let's do that just for about a minute. All right. So try to come out of that gently, and let's review just a few more things. There are other grounding exercises that Peter Levine talks about, and I want to go through two of them before we go on. So one is when you're standing. So feel free to stand if you're so inclined. So with this one, you've got your feet, both feet on the floor evenly. And you start by just feeling your feet on the ground, how they spread out, how your weight kind of distributes from your feet up your body as best you can. So you're with that sensation of the weight of your body. It's concentrated on the feet. And then when you feel ready, you're going to shift your weight slightly to one side, almost imperceptibly. So it's not dramatic. It's just very subtle, almost like someone that was watching you would barely notice. And then shift it very slowly to the other side. And then find your own rhythm, because there's no right or wrong way. It's just your own sense, what feels right to you. And as that weight shifts back and forth, notice how it changes the sensations in your body, your sense of space or time, or even of yourself. And just allow yourself to go back and forth gently at your own pace. Okay. And again, if you feel unsettled, this is an exercise that tends to get you back in your body and gets in touch with your relationship to the world instead of in your head. Go back and forth gently at your own pace. Okay, then go ahead and settle kind of even feet on both sides. Now, this one is another sort of mirroring of the pendulation of life. And in this one, let's just say you're having a day where you're feeling kind of down, or even during these exercises. So rather than fighting the sense of being dragged down by something heavy, so let's see if we can evoke that. So let's bring back that heavy memory, or challenge, as I call it, would be, but the challenging memory. Let's bring it up right now. And let's have it in your body. Where are you? You're in this difficult place. And allow yourself to be dragged down by it. So you're going to let yourself sag down to the ground. The gravity gets heavier and you can't help it. You're like, oh God, I'm just down to the underworld. And then now that we're down there, feel the strength in your legs and your feet. And see if you can kind of evoke this sense of almost rebounding from that underworld and have it gradually come up. And once you come up, feel that energy lift your arms up to the sky, and you can even tilt your head back, kind of like a yoga sun salutation move, stretching your body up into the heavens to your positive memory, so to speak, or your uplifting memory. And once you've reached this peak, it's almost like you're a ball flying up in the air. It reaches its apex, and then it starts to go down again. And we can go back to that memory of heaviness and challenge and have it bring you down to the underworld with the knowledge that the strength in your legs are going to rebound you back up towards that hopeful memory, to the heavens, to the light. And you can even breathe out as you come up. Right? So it's that feeling. Okay. And then we reach that apex, and then we feel the weight of life dragging us down again to the underworld, to the darkness, to the unknown. But then again, the strength in our legs is there, and it brings us back up to hope, to light, to the heavens again. And we're kind of the feeling. Okay, so now we're going to sit back down after that. So these are models of how we can respond to challenges. How did that feel to everyone so far? So here's our next section: the nervous system, dragons, and the empathetic parent. I'm going to frame this for you as we go on this adventure together and exploring ourselves deeply. First thing is that chronic pain is a signal from your subconscious nervous system. And what it's signaling is that it's holding an unresolved experience, and it's asking for a specific kind of attention that it wants you to find or generate on your own that it didn't receive at the time of the shock or overwhelm. And here's a really great quote from Dr. Peter Levine: "Trauma is not what happens to us, but what we hold inside in the absence of an empathetic witness." I'm going to read that one more time because it's such a powerful statement. Trauma is not what happens to us, but what we hold inside in the absence of an empathetic witness. So what he's saying here is that the event isn't what traumatized us. It was the event with the absence of something or someone, usually, to hold space for us in a specific way to allow us to process it in a successful way. And I'm going to describe that in a mythological structure right now to make it hopefully more clear, because the mythological structure speaks to your subconscious as well as your conscious mind. So each of these experiences that we have of overwhelm, of shock, of, you can label all kinds of ways: betrayal, disappointment, abuse. The way that it's marked in our nervous system is a territory or a place or a circumstance with a dragon that defeated you. And that's exactly how the nervous system marks it. We all have maps of our existence, And there's marks on your map of dragons. A dragon is a place or experience that overwhelmed, burned, or defeated you in some way. These territories on your map is territory or flags that say, I don't know how to handle this situation, this person, this way of being. And if I go there, it's going to burn me again. It's going to hurt me again. And so the more dragon spots you have on your map, well, the more dysregulated and nervous and unsettled you are, right? Because your sense of the world is that there's all these dragons out there that are going to burn me, and I don't know how to do anything about it. So the pain from your chronic condition is a cry for attention from your nervous system. It's saying, hey, I need you to attend to this and figure out how to turn this spot from a map of threat into a map of competence and safety. It's asking you to be aware of what is deeply unresolved within you. Basically, your nervous system doesn't trust that you can handle it. So it's too threatening in that context. And what it really needs you to do is to rewrite the story of your interaction with this territory. And this territory could be a person, by the way, or type of person, or a circumstance. So basically, when the dragon defeats you, you carry the myth of the defeated hero. And what your nervous system wants is you to be able to face that kind of dragon and know how to handle it properly. And when that happens, the nervous system switches the orientation of its experience of that, and it files it into narrative of your story of life. And from this is part of the adventure of my life where the hero, me, overcame this dragon and brought back the wisdom, the gold, so to speak, that I can now share with the world. And if you think about this also practically, is that when we think of heroes in our history, what did they do? They conquered something and then brought back benefit to everyone else. It could be a scientist figuring out how to, penicillin, right? I mean, that was incredible. This person discovered a substance that helped save a lot more lives than could ever have happened before from infection, for example. But there's a lot of different examples too. You could have someone like Marcus Aurelius. At the time he was alive, he had the opportunity twice to be the most powerful man in the world. And because of his ethics, he walked away from it and chose to go onto his estate and work the fields with his slaves, because that kept him grounded as a human being in the places that he knew were good. So these are what heroes do. They show us examples of how to be. So when we do it for ourselves, we have the opportunity to share that with others. A person that overcomes an adverse childhood and succeeds at being a good person is a hero that overcame massive dragons and, if nothing else, demonstrates to the world that it's possible. So once the nervous system has resolution, it stops screaming at you, which is the chronic pain is what you're feeling. And it doesn't need to anymore because that threat's gone. So the pain had a job to do. It's to show you what to attend to. And so I want to get a little more specific about what that pain signal is asking for, at least in part. What it's asking for is a specific kind of attention. It's the exact kind of attention it was missing at the moment of overwhelm. And the attention is often very much like a calm, empathetic, patient presence, like a good parent staying near a child in distress, not trying to fix, not trying to distract, not trying to stop them from doing it, but rather saying, I'm here and I'm going to give you space to experience this disturbing thing that you just went through until you find a place within yourself of safety and settledness. Now, this is not something that typically happens in one instant and you're done. It usually has to be repeated over time with the same issue, especially with complex trauma. So if something happened to you repeatedly as a child or repeatedly as an adult that was horrible, often you have to repeatedly come back to this empathetic place where you can help negotiate that into a new place within your own nervous system. And here's another really great quote about this from Pat Ogden, who is another incredible trauma researcher. She says, to change the imprint of trauma, you must attend to the body's story with a mindful, compassionate presence. And here's another quote from her mentor, Dr. Bessel van der Kolk. The only way we can change the way we feel is by becoming aware of our inner experience and learning to befriend what is going on inside ourselves. That's exactly what I'm trying to explain right now. These are great quotes from masters of this sort of work. Just touch base here about daily practices, which I just love to harp on because I'm so convinced that this is so necessary for long-term healing. So daily practice builds strength and readiness for the return to dragon territory. And I believe that is its main purpose. So body scan, meditation, pendulation, breath work, there's a lot of other things, mindful yoga. And those practices, when you spend time with them consistently, they become tools in your hero kit that you can pull out kind of intuitively eventually when they're necessary. And one of the things that's really so important for that is because you need these tools to be able to tolerate the anxiety and overwhelming feelings that come up when you try to attend to these overwhelming memories. Because it takes a lot of fortitude to go to these places. This is not for the weak, it's not for wimps, man. This is not easy. But just like in the myth, I mean, if slaying a dragon were easy, it wouldn't really matter, would it? And no one would be impressed if dragons were easy. If you had to just flick your finger and it was gone, it wouldn't really be the same model, would it? So with regular practice, those tools become embedded in your knowing of things. One of the reasons that's so important is that often when you come to these places of challenge, these same tools don't always work. So you have to kind of say, how about this one? I'll pull out a sword and it's like, oh, that doesn't work. How about a shield? Oh, that's a little better. How about a cloak of invisibility? Oh, that's doing it right now. You never really know. So you want to have as many tools in your tool chest as you possibly can. The other thing that I want to bring up again that I brought up in the last video that was posted, and I think it was a couple months ago we did this one, is overcoming resistance. And this is a big topic, so I'm just going to do a review right now. Resistance is an invisible force within every single human in history that never goes away. It can only learn to be managed. And you need to become a pro at getting to your work, which is, in this case, practices. And what resistance does is it does its best to keep you from the work. What resistance is oriented towards is it wants to offer you this kind of evil bargain of short-term comfort over long-term growth. And every time you want to shoot higher, when you want to strive towards something better, it's going to kick in and try to convince you that, I know you want to go on a diet, but everyone else is eating dessert, so you deserve it and should go ahead, and that wrecks your diet, or something similar. Or, even for chronic pain conditions, you could say you've been told that if you do these certain stretches every single day, twice a day, that this chance of your pain going down will be super high if you do it for 2 weeks straight. Of course, you only do it once a week, and so on and so forth. So there's this sort of voice in your head that tries to get you from doing that which would boost you to a higher place, and actually even give you that sort of sense of not abandoning yourself, because that's what it is. Resistance is essentially abandonment of your best interests by you. The other thing about resistance that's so insidious is it's a master at convincing you that the reason why you can't get to it has nothing to do with you. It's actually something out there that's doing it, but that's actually not right. That's never true. It's always you. And but the other part that's really important about the resistance thing is that when you're doing this. We all do. Although we'll convince ourselves that we don't. Because it's your own inner compass that tells you when you're off base, when you've betrayed yourself, and so on. So you don't even need to necessarily look to anyone else to tell you this. It's usually your own sense of yourself that tells you the best. Typically. That's not always exactly true, but it's mostly true. And I want to share just very briefly my experience with practices and moving towards the ability to actually be with myself in an intimate way where I'm being with my sensations and feelings without running for the hills or trying to drown it out with some distraction. So in the beginning, when I really started to take this work on, I couldn't tolerate sitting meditations or Peter Levine's pendulation exercises, especially if I was by myself. Now, I could kind of do it when I was with other people, but otherwise I couldn't tolerate it. And also there were certain breath exercises that everyone said, oh, this is the best breath exercise. It brings you to the best place. And I do it and it made me want to punch a hole in a wall. That's what those exercises made me, especially the breath work, made me angry. So I was like, that's not really working. So what I did is I found practices that I could tolerate and actually helped me. And this is very individual. So this list is not what I'm telling you to do. This is what I'm saying worked for me in my journey. So I started with pranayama breath practice. As a video on YouTube I found through the book is called Breath, discovered Wim Hof method. So I started doing the Wim Hof breath work and ended up doing mostly the Wim Hof and not the pranayama, although I love both of them. And then I also added cold exposure, including ice baths, which was amazingly helpful to me beyond my comprehension. It was so helpful. And then after a number of years, I was able to sit quietly, to do body scans, to do yoga nidra without the need to try to run away from this. And then recently, in the last number of like 6 months, I noticed that my nervous system was asking for me to just be with how I felt, which was very challenging, but I was willing. And that's how I finally came to the realization of, what so many wise people over history, the Buddhists, for example, are trying to get people to do that for a long time. And I acknowledge two things. One, they're right, but the caveat is if you have trauma, I don't think that starting there is a really great idea for most people with trauma. I could be wrong, it's individual, but I've read this before that often trying to be with your difficult feelings without preparation and training, or even a therapist with you sometimes, that has to happen, not always, is not recommended because it can actually re-traumatize people, potentially. So we're going to do some mindful practice that leads to writing. I want to make sure everyone has something to write with, because we're going to write down what we experience here. So here's the exercise. You're going to sit quietly and ask yourself, what has my conscience been bugging me about that I've been avoiding? And then once something comes up, or it could be many things, but once you get an answer, the next thing I want you to do is do this sort of mantra. What do you want from me? And then pause, probably for 10 seconds at least, and repeat that question. What do you want from me? And you want to do this, you want to repeat that probably 5 times, at least. And there's the next part I want you to do. When you find an answer, notice how your body feels. When you ask this question, what do you want from me? Notice how your body feels. So let's do this for about 5 minutes. Okay. We're at 5 minutes, but I'm sensing we want more. Is that right? So now I want you to take some time to be with what sort of feelings and body sensations or even memories that this brought up. And so here's the structure. We're going to do 10 minutes. And if you feel overwhelmed by what you're being with, feel free to do a pendulation exercise, stand and ground yourself, do the one where you're coming down and up, and you do whatever your body asks you to do in that regard. So it's kind of be a partnership between your conscious mind, which remembers the exercises on one level, and your body on the other level that might have a preference about what it wants to do. And if not clear to you, then fine. You can choose it mentally only and just go with that. But here's the exercise. Be with it like a parent would be with a child, or if this is more salient to you, just give it what it's asking for. Because it's asking for something, I'll tell you. It's asking for some kind of presence that it didn't get before or that it wants right now in some way. And it might even change that request in the moment. It might say, I want this kind of presence right now, and I want this kind of next, that, and just try to roll with it. And if really difficult feelings come up, do your best to be with them without doing your regular rhythm in which you may have, because people have different ways of not dealing with these things. You know, some people are going to have this uncontrollable urge to like look at YouTube or space out or think of all these tasks I have to do that I haven't done, or judge yourself. Oh, I'm such a loser. I'm not doing this exercise right. Because there is no right, by the way. Just to remind that part of yourself that this doesn't exist, the right thing. So there's all kinds of things that can come up, and as best you can, just be with it, even if it's kind of hard, or maybe not just kind of, but really hard. But give yourself permission, if it's too much, to do something to bring yourself back to a place that feels more grounded and safe. And if at any point this is too much, you can quit altogether and just journal more if you like. Be welcome to journal during this time too, especially if that helps you. What we're trying to do is to heal this relationship between your conscious mind and your intuitive body sense of things. Because that's a marriage that has been shattered to some degree, or a great degree, depending on your condition and your pain. And the more your pain is, usually the more it needs the healing. So it's kind of like getting a married couple together that can't stand each other. And it's like, how about a date? And they're like, it's never going to work. Why would we bother? And it's like, just humor me and see how, and maybe they'll discover after they're together a little bit that, hey, that wasn't that bad after all. And maybe they'll consider doing it again, possibly. So let's try that for 10 minutes. Be with the feelings, try not to distract, run, or change them, judge them, or any of that, and see how it goes. And using what you kind of uncovered in this exercise, because I'm guessing you may have uncovered more than one thing that was a potential thing to be with. And again, the other thing that I would encourage you to do is that if something becomes intense, the one thing you could do is ask it, what do you want? Because that's not a demand, right? It's just a question. And by the way, it doesn't really work unless you're open-heartedly serious. So if you don't really want to know, maybe you shouldn't ask, but that's what I want you to try now. All right. So let's go for 10 minutes. Okay, that's about 10 minutes. What did this feel like to you, this process? I want to tell you guys that what you're doing with right now, you may not be able to on your own yet. And don't feel like you're a failure if that's the case. I had that time and time again. I'd go to yoga class, I'd do all kinds of things that made me feel better, and I tried to do it at home and I just froze up and wouldn't do it and watched videos instead. So it's like there's nothing to feel ashamed of. That just means you're not resourced enough to do it. This is the other incredible part of this process, is that when you're willing to go on the journey, you get gifts, you get guidance from the gods, you have your whatever you want to call it. Athena is on your side, and Athena whispers in your ear and says, well, you're going to hurt anyway, so why not give it a shot? And you do it, and then you succeed, and and every time you go on one of these journeys, you bring out more treasure. And you get stronger, braver, and resistance has less of a hold on you each time. These all are story models, these archetypes that are real for us. I mean, and I'm just trying to show you how it plays out in reality. The way that healing works is that we're all stuck in certain narrow spaces, and you start peeking out of that narrow place into a higher place, and then you go even deeper, by the way, down. But you have to relax when it comes back down and you seize up again. Don't worry. It's just like an exercise where we're standing and going down to the underworld, and then we trust that the legs will bring us up. You have to trust that you're going to come back up again. And that actually going deep actually is necessary for going high. Right? Does that make sense? In other words, the tyrannical voice isn't wrong. It's just misplaced too often, so to speak. And it needs to be rewired, but it's not wrong. It's not your enemy. If you can go into the darkness without resisting and fighting, it actually weakens its hold on you, which is really weird. It's interesting because I did this exercise too. I mean, I don't just do this and let the minions try it. I mean, I'm still on this journey too. It's amazing how quickly the answers come up. I mean, I'm so amazed by this process, because if you ask yourself honestly, you get an answer. It's not like, oh, I don't know, I don't hear anything. It's like, and then just like you guys, I'm like, what did I write down? Like, 5 things, but one big hairy one, and that the hairy one is what wanted more attention. And I was like, damn, really? This is what, it's really calling me to live more fully from my heart. Jesus, I mean, who wants to hear that? And I've done it before, and there's this kind of push-pull, because part of me is longing for it, the other part's like, yeah, I don't know. But even wrestling with that felt healthy, and I was grateful for it. To be in the space where I'm even being it's needling me, it's pushing me, and it's calling me forth. And it's like, before I was just trying to survive for years and climb out of the pit. So now there's a little bit more expansiveness, a lot more actually, than I'm being called towards. And that's been happening for a while, but so, it's the other thing, is every stage of the journey is as hard as the last stage. So it's not like it gets easier exactly. It just gets easier to follow what you're called to. It's a habit almost. But it's not like the next stage is easy. It doesn't work like that. It's almost like every time you climb to a higher point in the rock to jump in the river, it's like, and then you get used to that, and you go to the next stage, it's like, and I think that just continues in the upward spiral of becoming more whole and more expansive as a person. So Peter Levine says he thinks that trauma is a doorway to self-transformation. So the healing process is also a doorway to self-transformation. He's not recommending that you seek trauma. And I agree with him. I think it's a profound truth that I don't think we really know truly what constitutes an advantage in life and what doesn't, because if you're too advantaged, you don't grow as much. And if you're too, crushed by life, you might not grow at all as well. But if you have more an optimal level of challenge, and who knows what that is, then it can lead you to more profound places in yourself and how you show up in the world. I don't really know how to define it, except some of our worst challenges lead us to our greatest strength. Eventually, hopefully. All right, you have to build resilience, you have to be mindful of your body and have it teach you how to tell you what it wants, right? What we just did today, right? No, it's there. I mean, it's funny because I'm working with a somatic therapist right now. He said that Peter Levine believed that all this is embedded in us, this wisdom. It's just about evoking it through the right structure, basically, and or environment, right? And it's so amazing because the longer I do this, the more I see that's true, because I don't teach people how to go through the process exactly. I just give them a framework and then they do it the way in which he describes. It's almost like a script they follow, but it's an embedded script, not one that I impose on them. And it's also what's happened to me personally is I keep seeing me going through processes that I've read about, but I didn't really understand on a feeling level. And then it just starts to go in that rhythm. And then I think, oh my God, that's exactly what they said this was. And I didn't plan it and I didn't force it intellectually, because it's also happening on a feeling level, which is non-intellectual. You know, the feeling level that's not intellectual cannot be forced by the intellect to go through that process. So it just doesn't work like that. It's like, forcing someone to love you. It's like by gunpoint. That doesn't work, right? Love me with all your heart. It's like, yeah, that's not going to happen. Sorry. So it's very exciting. I did want to add before we go something really interesting is that, because I have that whole video about honesty. So here's what I've discovered. When you honestly reach for that which you're called towards, that honest path toward the higher is what inspiration comes from, and what fuels you and gives you the grit necessary to go through the trials that are necessary to reach that point. But it has to come from that honest calling, that place within you, from your heart that says, I need you to go this way. And then, of course, your brain's like, are you effing crazy? Like, I can't do that. I'm too small, too damaged, too blah, 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 right? And as you walk towards it, honestly towards it, then you're fed on the journey from the honest orientation. So if you want to know how to have energy to face something insurmountable, you have to first be aligned with whether it's actually what you're called to truly. And the truer the call, the more resources you get from the gods as you move towards it. That's my experience. And you'll do things you can't imagine you're capable of in that space. That's the sort of magic. Thank you, everyone. If you found this content helpful, please like and subscribe. You can look forward to more videos about how to overcome chronic illness and chronic pain.